first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for taking my shares in my homophobic grandmother's will? I, 20 female, am gay, and my grandmother was completely against my lifestyle choices and has threatened to remove me from her will if I didn't change, which I didn't. Now, my grandmother recently died due to heart failure. I am her closest granddaughter, and she has left majority of the property and money she had for me, with some parts going to distant cousins of mine. The money and property she left is enough for me to go through college without any student debt. Plus, she left me a house to live in. Now, everyone knew how she was homophobic and had threatened me multiple times that she would remove me from the will and give it all away. My family members think that this is an a-hole move to take all the things she has left me, knowing that she clearly didn't want me in the will. They legally cannot do anything. I have consulted a lawyer. Now, I do think that it may be an a-hole move to take my share in the will, even though she was clear that she won't support my lifestyle. Am I the a-hole? Now, for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If your conscience will be clear, because that's what matters most here, take the money and use it for something good. Better that than the money going to people/groups that perpetuate homophobic beliefs. Not the a-hole. Your grandmother left you in the will for a reason. She chose for you to have a future, whether she likes your sexuality or not. She didn't remove you like everyone and herself kept saying, so it is your right to receive what she wanted for you. Homophobia is awful, and to deal with it from family is much worse. Receive what is rightfully yours and live your best life. I completely agree. Not the a-hole OP. If your grandmother really didn't want you in her will, she would have removed you from it like she kept saying. You even say she threatened many times, so I'm guessing it was over a long enough time period that she had plenty of time to actually change the will. I'm guessing those giving you a hard time simply want all the money and the house. If it's enough for a debt-free college, it's substantial, and nothing brings the worst out of people than money they feel falsely entitled to, and their greed. Use that money to give yourself a good start. Get your education and live well. Clearly, even though she didn't approve of your lifestyle, which really sucks and must have hurt, she loved you enough to still want to take care of you after her passing. Not the a-hole. Take it. Even if grandma kept saying horrible things, she chose to not remove you. These people are greedy if they're saying not to take it. Now, for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my ex-wife come to the cabin where we used to bring our son before he passed? My son Liam passed away over 2 years ago when he was only 5. I can't even begin to describe the pain we went through. Even now, I'm still learning how to cope and live every day without him. He was such a beautiful soul, and I miss him every second of my life. 7 months after he passed, my ex-wife and I split after she slept with her coworker. She wanted us to work it out and said she only cheated because she was struggling with her grief. That might have been true, but she still hurt me, so we divorced. My ex stayed in our old house. Even if it hurt leaving the home my son grew up in, I couldn't take being in that house after catching her in the act. Now about the cabin, we started coming every year around the holidays ever since Liam was a baby. Always the same one, because of the beautiful view of the lake that looked even better because of all the snow. It was Liam's favorite place in the world. My parents were friends with the elderly couple who owned the cabin. They rarely stayed there, so they always rented it out to us. Beginning of this year, they announced they were going to sell the place, and I decided to buy it myself. I work from home and liked the idea of living there, away from the city and away from everything that happened. I've adjusted well to living out here, and I feel so much closer to my son, living in a place that holds so many wonderful memories. And tainted by what happened. I never knew if my ex ever came up here on her own after my son passed. I know I didn't. She contacted me after she found out that I now live here. She asked if she could maybe come up because this is the time of year we used to bring Liam, and she wants to visit the place our son loved so much. I had to tell her no. Not to be petty, but because I didn't know if I could handle her being here after what she did. I'm still dealing with everything in therapy and have yet to forgive her. Obviously, she was upset by this and begged me over the phone to let her visit. She cried, but I just couldn't. It hurt too much to think about her being here in my space when I still feel the pain she caused me. My father understands and is on my side, but my mother is saying I am being unreasonable because my ex also lost her son and wants to visit the place he loved most. especially right now that she has no one in her life, and it might do us some good to grieve together. I am feeling torn about this. On the one hand, yes, she is Liam's mom and feels the same pain I do, so I understand her wanting to feel close to him. But on the other, I don't know if I can handle her being in my space when I'm still trying to get over the hurt. Even if I'm not present when she comes by, I will still know she was there, and it'll feel like she's intruded my safe place. It's a tough situation, but I just don't see it happening. Am I the a-hole for it? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You should be keeping your boundaries and doing what's good for you. If I got the timeline right, she could have visited the cabin before you bought it. She can also go and visit the lake and doesn't need to come to the cabin itself. My guess is she's using that as an excuse to maybe try to see you / try to get you back. Exactly. This is pure manipulation, born from her inability to properly deal with loss. Edit. Apparently, some readers missed a part of the story where his ex-wife stated that the affair was a direct result of the loss of their son. Causing more heartbreak and pain to those who are grieving is an inappropriate way to deal personally with loss. Demanding others to prioritize your pain over theirs is an inappropriate way to deal with loss. I thought these were obvious. Or, and just bear with me here, she wants to go there around holidays, which is when they took their son there. I mean, that's when she's going to want to be visiting there when her son was there. This is no a-holes here, and OB is definitely not the a-hole. But people here jump to manipulate and all these extremes way too fast. Like, chill out, people. We don't know all the facts. And yes, I did read that she still wanted to be with him, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she's trying to use her dead son's favorite place to manipulate OP. You were absolutely not the a-hole. Your ex gets to remember Liam in his everyday home, and now you do also. I'm so sorry for your loss and the extra grief that your wife caused with her own pain. It is not your job to make yourself uncomfortable or an additional pain to help her. Honor what feels right / best to you. I was just about to comment this. She has the everyday home that he gave up and has a new home that was the vacation homes. I understand the loss they both endured, but she doesn't get to impede on his home. It's very selfish of her knowing everything that happened. He is functioning on so little right now, and she should respect he needs space. She also probably has so many of their son's toys and photos. He's really starting over in the cabin from only memories. This isn't a vacation home anymore. It's just his home, not the a-hole. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for being upset about my lack of Christmas gifts? I, 17 male, wanted a PS5. I repeatedly told my parents I wanted a PS5. My mom said they were hard to come by and asked what else I'd like. I said nothing. If I couldn't get a PS5, then don't bother with anything else. That's the only thing I wanted. I may have been a little too insistent about it. Come Christmas morning, there's nothing for me but my favorite candy and a winter coat. I didn't understand and asked why I only got candy and a coat. My dad said I told them I didn't want anything else if they couldn't get me a PS5, so they didn't get me anything, except the coat because I need it, and my mom added a candy. I got upset and asked why they wouldn't have at least tried to get me something I might want. My dad said because I was becoming a spoiled brat. I disagreed, but my dad said I obviously don't hear how I talk to people, that I'm coming across more and more bratty, and that I'm not owed anything. Lots of people wanted PS5s or Xboxes, and a lot of them didn't get it. He said he could understand being mildly disappointed in not getting what I wanted, but a bratty entitled attitude had to stop. I told my dad he was being an a-hole to me, and I was just disappointed they didn't get me anything good. He said he didn't care if I was disappointed. He was disappointed in me for how materialistic I was being. When my brother, 20 male, called to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, I told him what happened, and he actually laughed and said it sounded like Dad was teaching me a lesson, and that I must have been acting like a real a-hole for him to do that. I don't see how I'm the a-hole for being disappointed I didn't get anything for Christmas, but my dad and brother are in agreement that I am. My brother suggested I post here. Now let's read the top judgment of this post. You're the a-hole. Your words, don't bother with anything else. You want a PS5? You're old enough to work for it. Your dad is right. You come across incredibly entitled and bratty. Imagine getting exactly what you ask for, and then taking your anger out on everyone around you when you get it. Sounds like an apology is in order to your parents, OP. You're the a-hole. Yep, or even getting more than what you ask for. How is OP just completely ignoring that he was gifted a new coat? That's a substantial gift. You're the a-hole. I'm angry that my family did exactly what I asked them to. You're the a-hole. Exactly. If OP had told his parents, I understand they're hard to get right now, but I'd rather get nothing for Christmas and get the PS5 when it's available, he probably would have got it eventually. I literally just did this with my kids and they are the same age. One wants PS5, the other wants an Xbox X. I could have gotten him the Xbox S, and he chose to wait for the X. So it took them to get new boots and gloves, and that's what they got for Christmas until I can get their systems and we had no issues. OP is definitely the a-hole. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for calling out my dad for not getting my mom a Christmas present in front of the entire family? I, female 16, live with my mom, dad, and sisters, 16, 13. Every year at Christmas, my mom's birthday and Mother's Day, my sisters and grandparents, on both sides, and I each get my mom a present. My dad doesn't. My mom always gets my dad nice presents though. This year alone, he got a TV for his birthday, a smoker, he loves barbecue, for Father's Day, and a PS5 for Christmas. She got a flower from our front yard for Mother's Day, and that's it. This year, my dad's parents, brother, sister, and their kids stayed with us for Christmas. When we were opening our presents, I looked over at my mom, and I could tell she was disappointed that my dad didn't get her anything again. So I asked my dad what he got her. He got very red and didn't say anything. His dad asked him if he ever gets my mom anything, and he answered no. His dad, brother, and sister called him a a-hole and asked me, my sisters, and my cousins to go to the game room. He stopped me later to tell me it was rude of me to call him out for not getting my mom anything, and he hasn't spoken to me since. Am I the a-hole for calling him out? Edit. I forgot to mention he gets himself very nice gifts for Christmas and his birthday. He bought himself an $800 computer and a new car this year. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If he doesn't want the embarrassment of being called out on his a-hole behavior, he simply needs to stop being an a-hole. It really is that easy. That's what a lot of people don't realize. It truly isn't hard to be a good or even decent person. Not the a-hole. If he's buying himself expensive gifts all the time, he can most likely afford to get his wife something nice. And even if he doesn't have the cash, he could at least put in some sort of effort like a card with a small gift. He's putting in zero effort. Not the a-hole. He buys himself a car and can't get his wife as much as a keyring. Besides, it was his family who followed up with a criticism, not you. I would love to have heard Grandpa ripping the dad a new one, along with the aunt and uncle when the kids left the room. Very well played, OP. Your comment was innocuous on the surface, but had devastating repercussions given the audience. A+ work and not the a-hole. Update. After dinner, he left with his dad and came back with a diamond bracelet for my mom. Edit. They didn't buy the bracelet on Christmas, they bought it on the 26th. Sorry for not making that clear. I also don't know how my mom feels about the bracelet. I just saw my dad and Grandpa leave, then my dad came back and gave her the bracelet.
Am I wrong for telling my estranged sister and our parents that she and her kids are not my problem? 7 years ago, I was married and expecting a baby when things went horribly wrong. Around 10 weeks into my pregnancy, I suffered a miscarriage, and then I returned home to find my husband in bed with my sister. The two of them tried to apologize and convince me that we could all get over it. But I wanted nothing to do with either of them, and even less so when I found out she had gotten pregnant. My divorce was finalized quickly because I wanted nothing from him other than the divorce, and was willing to leave the marriage with nothing but the clothes on my back. Pretty early, I realized my parents were hoping I would want to still be part of the baby's life, but I wanted nothing to do with the baby my sister conceived while sleeping with my husband, now ex, as I lay in hospital losing my own pregnancy. I refused any and all contact with my sister and ex. They married and had 2 more children after the one she conceived during my marriage to him. I met my current husband when I had distanced myself from my whole family, and he was amazing, and his family were great. We got married 2 years ago, and his family are nothing short of the best. I adore the nieces and nephews I have gained through my marriage to him, and we spend a lot of time together. Around 3 months ago, my sister called me at work using my work phone and told me she needed me and could I please come to her. I hung up the phone and continued about my day. It was several hours later that I got a message from my parents saying I needed to be with my sister. A few days later, I got another call and was told that my sister had been pregnant. The baby passed away inside of her and she delivered a stillborn, all while my ex was out sleeping with someone else. My parents and sister expected me to rally around her and I didn't. Now that some time has passed and she lives with them, I have been inundated with them saying I should meet her kids, be there for them like I am my husband's nieces and nephews, and that I should reconcile with the family. My sister told me how sorry she was again and that she wanted us to make up. I told the 3 of them that she and her kids are not my problem and I still want nothing to do with them. My parents are furious and they say I need to forgive because whatever she did, she is now suffering worse than would ever be deserved, and her kids are innocent and deserve an aunt. Am I in the wrong? Now for the top comments. Nope. Your sister fooled around and now she's finding out. I'm incredibly sorry that either of you had to go through any of that, both the miscarriage or stillbirth and the cheating, but this is karma wrapped in a big freaking bow. I am not downplaying the horror of miscarriage or stillbirth, nor would I ever wish it upon anyone. It is one of the worst things a human can go through. My comment was more aimed at the cheating aspect and the fact that the 2 situations are so damn similar. Although I will add that I'm wondering what the hell kind of man sees his wife in hospital losing her baby and thinks it's the perfect time for a hookup. Not wrong. You don't need to forgive her. What she did is unforgivable. Tell your parents to tell her that she can deal with it like you did, by going out and finding a decent man to make her life with, if any will have her. But you're not letting her around you or your new family because you're not her husband, Mart. Then tell your parents that if they don't respect your desire to have nothing to do with her and harangue you again, you will completely cut them out of your life for 1 year, to be repeated as necessary. The kids are innocent, but under these circumstances, you have no family obligation to them. That's your sister's fault. Don't be mean to them if you come across them randomly in public, of course, but you are fine with deciding any kind of relationship with them is off the table. I'm dying laughing at husband Mart. OP, tell your parents that you can't possibly trust your sister around your new husband, because there's no telling what she'd do to get another man. Lord knows how desperate she is, that she has to sleep with, have children with, and marry your ex-husband, and didn't even have the decency to wait until you were done to go licking off your plate. Not in the wrong, and I wouldn't be talking to my parents either. If you guys suffered the same fate, how come you need to rally around her when someone else did it to her, and when you suffered, it was her that was doing it to you? Shaking my head. Worse than could ever be deserved, they say. I happen to think she got exactly what she deserved. She got exactly what she gave to you. Literally found herself in the exact same predicament, and the fact that she thinks she deserves your sympathy is almost comical. I honestly think you should cut communication with all 3 of them, your horrid sister and kind of even more so horrid parents. Of course you're not wrong. Don't question yourself for a minute. Continue to live your best life without the unnecessary baggage some might refer to as your family. Yes, literally the same situation, but a bit better actually, because she actually didn't have to watch her own sister bet her husband. Next story. Am I wrong for not congratulating my ex on the birth of his baby? I, 22 female, was in a relationship with Kyle, 25 male, for over a year when Ella, 23 female, came into the picture. I am so very sure that there was no cheating going on. Kyle wasn't being secretive, he wasn't hiding anything, and none of our friends seemed to be lying to me. So I was very heartbroken when he broke up with me and was shocked when he got with Ella a few weeks later. Now, I'm a socially anxious introvert, so hiding from them and my friends was easy. I threw myself into work and my hobbies and did everything I could to avoid them, all due to the fact that Kyle and I share a friend group. Luckily, I had my best friend Jenna, 21 female, by my side and 100% on my side. Fast forward a year, Kyle and Ella announced their pregnancy to the world, and seeing the Facebook post made me feel like I was being broken up with all over again. The baby was born last month, and whilst our friends have congratulated them and gone to see the baby, Jenna and I haven't. I understand that the baby is innocent, but I wouldn't be able to be in the same room as Kyle and Ella. Then Ella messaged me a few nights ago, telling me that I was a heartless witch for not being happy for them, and that I should have at least congratulated Kyle. Jenna saw these messages and sent one of her own to Ella, basically saying that Ella has no right to demand anything from me after she ruined my relationship. Jenna has reassured me day after day that I didn't need to say anything to either of them, but it's been eating away at me. Am I wrong here? No. Ella is nuts. I can't imagine caring what my partner's ex thinks about my new baby. If I was her, I'd be annoyed if you contacted your ex, even to say congrats. It's a power trip. Haha, I won. I have your man and a baby. Literally. This lady is so insecure as her relationship that while dealing with a newborn, she's sitting there with OP taking up all the free real estate inside her head. Like, how pathetic is that? She's mad that OP isn't thinking about her the same amount that she's been stewing about OP. Some things to consider. Kyle is not such a great prize. He dropped you in a heartbeat and moved on to Ella. While breakups are painful, he doesn't deserve to take up any more of your time or space in your mind and heart. Ella is probably a little threatened by you. However, she happened to end up with Kyle. Maybe she'll feel validated, and looking for a congratulations from you is her way of seeking your blessing. You don't owe it to either of them. Ella is also stirring the pot a little because there was no need for name calling. If you all were friends, then maybe she's the heartless bee, as she put it, for not leveling with you first when she decided to get with Kyle. You don't owe Ella and Kyle anything, not even a congratulatory text. What's more, they don't deserve it. Don't let these two continue to negatively impact your well-being. Not in the wrong, if this is what I think it is. You don't owe your ex any time. However, it sounds like maybe Ella is closely related to you, good friend or family member. Because in my opinion, if they aren't that close, I'm not sure there's any reason to have a connection with them on social media or phone contacts, etc. None of my exes called or texted me when I had a kid, and I thought nothing of it. Multiple people messaged us when my husband and I got married and had our kid. It was incredibly bizarre. One of the women who messaged my husband wasn't even friends with us, yet went on and on about how she believed he had always had a crush on her and how she was so surprised he got married because of said crush. She legitimately expected him to pine for her, alone for 5-ish years, rather than have any relationships. It was nuts. And that lady was married. I had multiple male friends ghost me the minute the marriage announcement went up. Nothing better than the realization that they were all just waiting in line for their turn. It was gross. Next story. Am I wrong for telling my mom she's dumb if she thinks I'll babysit for her? My mom and I, 17 female, have never had a good relationship. She was 20 when she had me, with a guy she slept with who she didn't like, which chased away the guy she did like, because he didn't want to be with someone who had a kid. So I was born, and mom had negative feelings for me, and we lived with my grandparents most of my childhood. When I was about 6, mom started to take more of an interest, because I think the idea of having a little girl to dress up and do makeovers with was fun to her. But I was never into makeup or clothes. I'm not the girl she wanted me to be, and mom lost interest after I refused to go around wearing these sparkly dresses that she'd find for me. When I was 13, we moved out of my grandparents and into a place together. 6 months later, her now husband moved in. 2 years later, she was pregnant and had a baby girl, who is now 8 months old, and she's expecting again. Mom has been so happy and has been such a different mother to her baby, and she's even excited to be having a boy now. A few weeks ago, she wanted me to babysit so she and her husband could have a date night. I told her I was busy. She told me I could be unbusy and help out in the family. I told her that wasn't going to happen. She said to see it as bonding time with my sister. I told her I didn't need any bonding time and I was going out, so she better find someone else. She threatened to punish me. I asked her how. She stared at me for the longest time because she had no idea what would matter enough to me to take away. She ended up just paying a sitter. Then a few days later, she told me again that I would be babysitting. I told her my answer was the same as the previous time and that she could forget me ever babysitting. She was all, why the hell not? She told me I owed her and that I was making her wish she had left me at my grandparents'. I told her she should have, and then she wouldn't need to worry about her little family, where she has one of each, which was what she said a couple of times after finding out she's having a boy this time. I told her she was dumb to think I'd help her or want to spend time with her kids when she has made it clear she never wanted to be my mom and that I was never enough for her. She got so mad that I called her dumb and told me I was the biggest regret she had, and why the heck could I not realize I owed her? Her husband told me calling her dumb was cruel and that it's offensive to others. Am I the idiot? Now for the top comments. As a fellow unplanned child of a young mother, I feel you, friend. I wanted to feel supported and loved too. To shake the projected feelings of regret. You don't get that by fighting fire with fire. You can't get clean water from a dirty well. You are not wrong. You are just a kid working through complex emotional needs and lacking a parent that can navigate those with you with any sense of emotional maturity. If your parent can't give you the support you need, reevaluate what your support network looks like and identify other figures in your life that can help. It's a terrifying process to branch out like that, but relying on a dysfunctional parent forever isn't going to lead to good places. I have my grandparents. They're the only people I actually rely on for support, but Mom limited my access to them after we moved out because she had a fight with them and doesn't speak to them anymore. Reddit doctor here. I'm going to prescribe grandparent hugs once daily for the next 6 months or until symptoms improve. Seriously though, if you are almost 18, maybe start considering moving in with your grandparents as soon as you are legally able to. It doesn't sound like your relationship with your parent is likely to be resolved in short order, even with a good therapist involved. Thank you. That is my plan. I've got my sights set on my 18th birthday, and the last time I could speak to my grandparents, I brought it up to them, and they were good with the plan. You can probably go now. Courts often don't force 17-year-olds to follow the custody orders. My daughter, 17 female, had a physical fight with her dad earlier this year. It was the last straw for her, so she asked me to come get her. She's been living with me full-time since, though the custody order is 50-50. Her dad called the police and said I had kidnapped her. They told him to go pound sand. I'm so sorry you've grown up with that feeling from your mom. That sucks. I'm used to it by now, but it means things can be awkward when she thinks I'll still try to win her love. Last story. Am I the idiot for telling my half-sister something her parents wouldn't? My 17 female parents divorced 6 years ago after my mom and I found out dad had been having an affair and got another woman pregnant. The woman is now dad's wife, and she showed up at our door 8 months pregnant at the time. As you can imagine, the divorce was not amicable or friendly in the slightest. My relationship with my dad also changed. I had been a real daddy's girl, but ever since, I don't feel the same about him. He destroyed my family, hurt my mom, betrayed me too, and left me to deal with my parents' divorce and a new baby coming into the picture in almost no time at all, because 3 weeks after his now wife showed up at the door, my half-sister was born. My parents ended up sharing custody of me. I've always wished I had far less time with my dad. I don't like or trust him and his wife. I have grown fond of my now 6-year-old half-sister and my 4-year-old half-brother though. But I'm not super involved in their lives either, because that would mean more exposure and time with dad and his wife. So, I'm graduating in June 2023, and my half-sister has talked about how excited she is. She then started talking about family photos, and how our whole family would be in photos for the first time. I think she was trying to say family unit, but she's 6 so probably doesn't get it. I told my dad he needed to explain that we have different families, and her idea of who will be there and what family photos will look like for me are different, which includes her grandparents and her mom's brother, as well as her parents and brother. He said she wasn't wrong, and his wife and her family are part of my family unit also. I told him they were nothing to me. When he still wouldn't do it, I tried to get his wife to talk to her daughter, but that was a fail. So when she brought it up again, I explained that our families looked a little different and how her grandparents and uncle were not my family. I explained I had my own family through my mom. She asked if her mom was my family, and I told her no, but that she and half-brother are, even if it is different between me and them than it was between the two of them. She got it. She asked if I wanted to have her family too because she'd share, but I told her I was good. When she wasn't bringing it up anymore, Dad and his wife asked her about it, and she told them I explained it to her. Now they're saying I'm an idiot and that it wasn't my place. Not wrong, because you explained nicely without going into details that should not be told to a small child. Yep. Sounds like you handled it like a champ. Factual, plain, no acrimony. Yep. It sounds like OP really loves her little sister and is honestly the least likely to go throwing shade at other people while attempting to explain the dynamics of this family. There's no telling how Dad and the affair partner, stepmom, would have referred to OP's mom and additional extended family while trying to explain it. OP sounds like an awesome big sister. Not the idiot. You're very gracious towards her. I read so many posts here where kids simply hate their half-siblings for how they were born, so I'm happy to read one where they like each other. Your dad and his wife are though. What do they think that your sister will never notice? They don't need to confess their sins to her, but kids get before we were together, Dad was married to another woman. But that didn't work, so we got married instead. That's why your sister has a different mom. Honestly, it sounds like part of refusing to explain it was them trying to use their poor sweetheart of a little girl to try and force OP to at least put on a show of accepting the affair partner and her family. So, this was honestly the kindest thing OP could do for her sister and herself, to explain it kindly and honestly, so they can't use her for that BS anymore. 6 years is old enough to understand that there are different kinds of families. Had you gone into details about why your parents separated with a 6-year-old, that would have been horrible behavior. But simply telling her that her mom's side of the family is not your family is fine, and your father and her mother should have told her.
Am I the a-hole for not allowing my husband and stepson to make everything retroactively equal? I was married to a wonderful man for 10 years. He passed away in a car accident when our children were 6 and 4. When I remarried 5 years later, my new husband had an 11-year-old son. So our children are now his son 15, my son's 15, 13, and our daughter 3. His parents set up a trust fund for his first son and for our daughter. I asked if they were doing anything for his 2 step-kids, and he said it was unfair to ask them to set money aside for kids that just came into the family. I accepted his answer, because my older kids have money from their dad's life insurance, so they have a good nest egg already. My first husband's parents are great people, and I've accepted my stepson and my daughter as bonus grandkids. They have made an effort to treat them well, and always include them in gifts for the family and on their birthdays and Christmas. My parents have also made an effort to be nice, but they're more standoffish with my stepson. They have a cordial relationship, and always send him gifts and invite him along on family events. My parents just sold their farm and are splitting the proceeds amongst all of my siblings and I. All the grandkids are also getting some money. The amount that my 2 sons and my daughter are receiving is about 5 times the amount that is in a trust fund that my stepson and daughter got from my husband's parents. My husband is now saying that it isn't fair that 3 of the kids are getting so much more. I said that it wasn't my money and that my parents could decide for themselves how it should be split up. He thinks that all the money for the kids should be pooled and split evenly. I refuse to even try and get into the legality of it. It is literally not my money. He says that I'm being an a-hole for singling out my stepson, but I just keep saying it isn't my decision. I approached my parents and they said that the most they would do is split up my daughter's money with him since they're half brother and sister. That would mean that she gets less than her brothers. I just want to leave everything alone. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. So your new husband thinks your kids don't deserve his parents' money, but his kids do deserve your parents' money? Am I reading this correctly? No, he wants to pool all the money and split it evenly. But he only wants to pool the money now that your children will be receiving a much more abundant amount. Where was the offer to pool the money previously? He was complicit with the rules and asked you to be. So he should be complicit with the rules set forth by your parents. It's not your money to dictate who should receive it. When your kids are older, they can share as they see fit, or not. Info. Are they giving you and your husband the money to dole out to the kids? Or are they setting up a trust for each child that they can access when they hit a certain age? It is all being done through lawyers. I do not have access to the money set aside for my kids. It isn't real inheritance. It is a trust fund set aside for their futures. My money is also going into a trust where I can draw on the interest. As a farm, but it is really a farm corporation and it is being sold to an even larger one. But it is several full sections of prime agricultural land. They are keeping like 1,000 acres and setting up a wildlife sanctuary with only family cabins on it. It is a big deal, but I just want it over. The point more becomes that it really doesn't matter what your husband thinks or wants if the 2 of you don't have access to the trust, as in you're not trustees. Does it suck? Kinda, yeah. Blended families have challenges, and this is one of them. But he needs to look in the mirror and rationalize how it was okay when it was his kids getting money and now it suddenly isn't. But ultimately, it doesn't matter since the only ones that can make changes are those in charge of the trust. Not the a-hole and big red flag about hubby. He's moving the goalposts here. He told you that your kids would be shafted in the deal from his folks and expected you to be okay with that, which you are. But now that the son is being shafted by the deal from your folks, it's suddenly not fair? Not how it works, bro. Next story. Am I the a-hole for letting my stepdaughter spend a night in jail instead of bailing her out right away? My wife, 38 female, and I, 39 male, have been married for 6 years. We have 2 kids, 8 and 5. My wife also has a daughter, Mary, 18, from before we got together. Mary's in her senior year of high school and lives with us. She will go see her bio dad 2 weekends a month, but due to her extracurricular activities, it is not always an every other weekend thing. Since bio dad lives about 2 hours away, Mary works out times with her dad for her to visit him and she drives herself there. This past weekend, my wife took our 2 younger kids to visit her sister who lives about 3 hours away. Before my wife left, Mary told us that she was going to visit her dad that weekend. I was going to stay home to get some work done on some home projects that had been neglected over the holidays. So on Friday, after everyone else had left, I kicked back and took advantage of the very rare opportunity of having an empty house to myself. I bought a nice bottle of bourbon, visited our local dispensary, and bought myself a nice big steak. About 3 a.m., I was awoken by a phone call. Any parent knows that a phone call at that time of night is a nightmare situation, so I immediately answered. It was my wife, and she told me that Mary had been arrested and had just called her from our local jail. Apparently, she lied about going to her dad's house and had instead attended a party. The party got busted and Mary panicked and tried to run. Of course, the cops caught her and arrested her. My wife said that the police would allow me to go get Mary right away instead of keeping her in jail. I told my wife that I had been drinking earlier and was probably not safe to drive, let alone drive to a police station. I told her that I would pick Mary up first thing in the morning. My wife yelled at me for being irresponsible by drinking to that point in case of an emergency. I told her that I was home by myself, and everyone else in the family was supposed to be hours away, so I essentially had zero responsibility for anyone besides myself. She eventually calmed down enough to see my side. The next morning, I went and got Mary right when I woke up. When I saw her, it was obvious she had been crying a lot, and she didn't say a word to me on the way home. She immediately went to her room when we got home and didn't come out the entire day. The next day, when my wife got home, Mary was still in her room. My wife talked to her and then came to talk to me. She told me that both her and Mary are disappointed in me that I made her spend a night in jail instead of getting her right away. She said Mary is traumatized by the whole thing. I told her good, maybe next time she won't lie and do stupid things. I reminded her that Mary's an adult now, and she has to get used to facing consequences of her actions, and this should be a very clear reminder of what those consequences could be. My wife said that the lesson could have been made without making her spend a night in jail. Arrested for what? Cops breaking up parties aren't looking to fill holding cells with teenagers for underage drinking or smoking weed. Even assault cases walk out after booking in most places. You're the a-hole regardless. If you were drunk, then take an Uber and go get her. They charged her with underage drinking, resisting arrest, and disorderly conduct. We are looking into a lawyer because I expect we can get some of the charges reduced or dropped completely. We live in a smaller town, population is under 10K, and we don't have Uber here. Not the a-hole. I don't see any part of this situation that would be improved by you showing up drunk and hide to a police station in the middle of the night. This comment is all that's needed. I don't know where OP is. But in Canada, while it is legal, you still can't drive under the influence of cannabis, let alone alcohol. This is a recipe for disaster for the both of them. Exactly. Wife's disappointment is so misplaced. She sees OP's side, but still wants the outcome to have been different. That's not an OP. Not the a-hole. If she was so traumatized by spending the night in jail, then why didn't your wife contact her actual father after you told her you were not sober enough to drive down to bail her out? Surely 2 hours away is not far when his daughter was in jail. Right? Like, where is Biodad in all of this? Next story. Am I the a-hole for reprimanding my adult son and telling him to get over himself? My son has 2 boys ages 16 male and 12 male. Their mom, and my son's first wife, died suddenly 10 years ago. My son and the boys were lost. But 8 months later, my son met a woman and fell very hard and fast for her. He admitted to his dad and I that he felt like everything could be perfect again. The boys could have a mom present and he could have a wife again. We warned him that it might not be that easy, but he was so happy again and appeared to have lightened after meeting her, so we tried not to say too much. His oldest son, we'll call him Cole, did not take to my son's now second wife Emma very easily. My son and Emma married 2 years after his first wife died. Emma had lived with them 6 months prior to the wedding. The youngest, Jamie, started to call Emma mom almost immediately, but he was so little with no memories of his mom. Cole was different. He did not want to call her mom and did not like the idea of her being his second mom. He was adamant he did not want her like that. It became especially clear during the wedding that things would not go well. My son and Emma planned a small exchange between her and the boys. Meant to be a sweet moment to celebrate the joining of the family, but Cole wanted no part in it and sat out while his brother and Emma took part. After that, we suggested to our son that everyone could do with some therapy and he listened. It's clear that our son has grown to resent Cole for not embracing Emma and being part of the family the way he wanted him to be. Their relationship is incredibly stained, and Cole is polite but very distant with Emma. He treats her more like he does his teachers than he does the rest of the family, and it angers our son. I have seen my son visibly frustrated when Cole calls her Emma, or when he talks about his mom. A few days ago, my son was ranting and raving about how Cole is a stubborn brat, and how he will never be able to understand why he can't accept Emma as a mom too. He said that adoptive kids don't dig in their heels this way and refuse to accept a new parent, that most are so grateful to have someone. He said it's disrespectful to him, Emma, and to Jamie, that it undermines the family they all want to have, and Cole refuses to even try. Also, that he wishes Cole was more like Jamie, that Jamie handled things right, that Cole is disrespectful to him as his dad by not listening, and he also said he finds it hard to look at Cole and feel the same as he does for Jamie because all of this. I reprimanded him for talking like that about Cole. I told him he needs to get over himself and accept his son, and find a way to accept that neither Cole nor Jamie's way is inherently right, and it's about what's right for them as individuals. I also told him Cole can feel every bit of that anger, and one day he will lose his son if he can't accept the truth for Cole and let go of all this frustration. My son told me I will never understand and should not speak to him like he's a child. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. When Cole is 18, I fully expect Cole will need a place to stay. Make sure your door's open to him. It's so sad knowing it could get that bad, as Cole sounds like he's been respectful of Emma, even if he doesn't think of her as his mother, and he's more than allowed to do that. I feel so bad for him. It seems like he is being pushed to call her mom. If he doesn't want to call her mom or see her as his mom, I don't see the issue as long as he respects her and isn't outright mean, etc. And if we are being honest, when kids are that age, when you push them to do something like that, it will just make them rebel more. If Cole ever does get to the point of wanting to call her that, it needs to come naturally. But if he never gets to that point, that's okay too. You're definitely not the a-hole. Your son needed to hear it. It now just needs to absorb it, hopefully. If your son doesn't want to be spoken like a child, then he needs to stop acting like one. From your description, Cole is not disrespectful or mean to Emma. She is not his mother, and she will never be. But he is polite to her. That's all he needs to do. Your son is 100% wrong in this scenario, and in 2 years when Cole is 18, he will have nothing to do with his father. You stood up for your grandson. Looks like you are the only one in his corner. Not the a-hole. Children play pretend, and Opie's son is expecting Cole to pretend he never had a mother apart from Emma. That's pretty childish. Last story. Am I the a-hole for driving off when I saw that my fiancé brought her kids to our trip and told her that she was the one who ruined it? For months, my fiancé was busy with her kids and work, so she wanted us to go on a couple's trip, and I promised to make it happen this month. She was supposed to leave her kids, 4 and 7, with their father, but he had a death in the family and had to travel towns away. I went to pick her up on the day of the trip, but was surprised to see my stepkid standing there with her. I was confused, till she told me about the situation her ex had. I asked what she was supposed to do with the kids, and she suggested we take them along. I refused and reminded her of the kind of trip we planned. She said circumstances change, and she can't leave them behind nor find a babysitter so fast. I decided to just cancel, but she begged me not. I just proceeded to drive off, and the trip got cancelled and I went home. She left me some texts, basically blaming me for what I did, but I responded that she ruined the trip when she decided to bring the kids. She said those are her kids, and I shouldn't expect her not to prioritize them, which I respect, but that wasn't the point. Long story short, we had a fight and she is still upset with me and refused to answer my call or open the door for me. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted? Everyone sucks here. When you have kids, things can come up unexpectedly. You're going to need to accept that. The reason I say everyone sucks here is because she should have communicated with you as soon as she knew she'd have the kids. She shouldn't have waited until you showed up, ready to go off on a trip for 2. Together, you two could have decided how to handle things. But you also didn't need to react like that. I wouldn't want my young children around an adult who acts like he is taking his ball and going home. My immediate thought was, why didn't she tell him prior to him showing up ready to leave? She completely blindsided him, so I can understand him being upset. Did he react the right way? No. He could have civilly communicated and canceled the trip. But she could have also communicated the situation better. Exactly. Which makes it an everyone sucks situation. Except the kids, of course. I feel the worst for them. Can you even imagine? Sucks for them. But to add another level to all of this, I want to know who was footing the bill. He states he planned it, so is the full expense on him? If so, then was she expecting him to cover the additional cost for the kids? She tried to turn it into a family getaway, so it stands to reason she was expecting him to cover it completely. Not the a-hole. I'm a mom of 3, and this was an ambush. No reason she couldn't have called or texted. She wanted you to feel pressured. Mom here as well. I would have called the dude and told him. Yeah, she's definitely kind of a jerk here. The moment she found out the kids were staying, she should have said something. Not only did she not tell him to cancel the trip, she begged him not to, as if taking kids to a couple's trip is a reasonable ask. Not the a-hole.
Entitled ex-girlfriend wants the engagement ring I never gave her because she broke up with me before I could propose. Gets arrested for her troubles. A while back I was dating this girl for roughly 2 years. I thought things were going great, but apparently she was just dating me because she liked to tell people she was in a relationship. Yes, that's how it went with her. The way she described me was too immature, decent in bed, and honestly not worth the rest of my life. Exact words she said to a friend of hers after we broke up. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So I went out and bought a ring, had this entire thing planned out to propose to her. However, she was suddenly not available for several weeks in a row. Well, my fears rang true, as she suddenly showed up at my place one day, acted like everything was normal as we talked, and she was grabbing everything that was hers. About halfway through, I just kinda looked at her and said, "Don't forget your hairdryer. It would be awkward to have to come back over after you dump me." This sparked a long and awkward conversation where she was fake crying. I had realized right then and there that I was an idiot. The way she acted, the way she spoke, and the way she treated me just screamed that she did not care. I was devastated, but seeing her made me angry. I had realized she was lying to me this entire time. About a month later, a friend of hers called me up, asked if she could come over to talk. I asked why, and she said my ex pissed her off, and she wanted to tell me some things. My mind goes to horrifying things, like she needs to warn me I need to see a doctor or things like that. Well, her friend came over and we chatted for a while. See, her friend was beyond pissed off. Talk about ending the relationship, pissed off at her. So her way to get back at her friend was to sleep with her ex-boyfriend. Me being in my mental state, I said yes. More like I said, sure, yeah, we can do that if you really want to. So she ends up staying over for a few days as we get to talking about my ex. I tell her about the ring, and she had the best idea to get back at my ex. Let's lay down in bed and post a pic of ourselves with the ring in between us. Yeah, I thought it was a terrible idea, but I wanted my ex to feel like crap, so, well, there you go. Not even 2 hours later, my ex was at the door. We posted the picture at like 11 in the morning, and she was at my place at 12:40 something. Right off the bat, she tried to act like breaking up with me was a mistake. She said that I was the best boyfriend she ever had, and she was getting scared with how serious things were getting. She said she made a terrible mistake in breaking up with me. Well, her friend immediately goes into a rant about my ex, saying that she was manipulative and that neither of us would believe this sob story she was giving. Gotta say, I'm very glad her friend was there because my stupid self was believing my ex. I reminded her of how she treated me when we broke up and that she should go home, that she was wasting her time. Well, now she brought up the ring, said she owed it under the law, said that rings are gifts and that I cannot take it back. In unison, me and her friend said that I never gave it to her. We both looked at each other and laughed a bit, as the absurdity of the situation was getting outrageous. She said she was owed that ring, and that she was not leaving without it. At about this time, a police officer came up the stairs wanting to know what the trouble was. I guess we made enough noise that neighbors called the police. The female officer asked what the situation was. Everyone tried to talk at once, and the officer shut us down, pointed to my ex and asked her what the problem was. She said she was trying to pick up her stuff after we broke up. She asked me if it were true. I explained the situation, how my ex broke up with me before I had the chance to propose, and that she was never given the ring. Throughout the conversation, 2 more officers showed up, and one a supervisor. The whole story was explained like 4 times. At one point, my ex said that the money from the ring will let her pay off her car. Have you ever seen a moment when someone says something so outrageous that everyone looks at them in utter disgust? I responded with that the ring isn't expensive, it was bought off of a website, and I reminded her that I am an IT tech, so this wasn't a ring that was 10 to 12K, more like 1 to 1.5K. The anger and rage that came over her face was immediately apparent to everyone. She stepped forward and punched me in the chest and kicked at me before being tackled to the ground by the female officer. The supervisor on scene told us to go inside while they get her under control. We did, and about 10 minutes later they came back. They wanted my statement. I told them I didn't want to press charges against her, but they said, yeah, it doesn't work like that. We saw it, so it's being processed. She ended up getting misdemeanor offense for it. Now for the top comments. Engagement rings are the legal exception to the gift rule. In most places, it's a gift in contemplation of marriage. She would have had to give it back anyways. I learned that from Judge Judy. I answer to a higher Judy, Judith Martin. Miss Manners says that in polite society, an engagement ring should remain the property of the person who did not end the engagement. Accommodations may be made for family heirlooms, providing a ring or other compensation of equal monetary value is expected. Said she owed it under the law, said that rings are gifts and that I cannot take it back. That's hilarious. 1. You never got engaged. 2. You never gave her the ring. 3. And most importantly, even if you had given her the ring and she then broke up with you, legally she would have to return it. An engagement ring is given as a token and promise of marriage. If the marriage does not happen, she has to return the ring anyway. You dodged a greedy bullet there. Unless it was given to her on a holiday, such as Valentine's Day or Christmas. In that case, it can be considered a gift rather than consideration pending fulfillment of a contract. And that is why holiday proposals should be treated as money bet in Vegas. If it all goes south, you are never getting it back. Always press charges. That way the perp might learn their lesson. It also creates a paper trail in case of escalation down the road. And as a warning to future people contemplating a relationship with this type of person. Next story. Cheat and lie about why we broke up. Enjoy being disowned and cut out from your family. This happened between me 25 male and my ex 24 female over the past few months. I will keep it short but keep all important details. To start, the first month, February, was amazing, like a dream relationship. We had been friends for a while before when she suddenly confessed. I had hid my feelings as we were meant to only be friends, so I jumped at the opportunity stating my feelings. The second month was not as bad, only having a single argument as she invited her neighbor over to what was supposed to be a date. After talking it out, we sorted it and made up. The third month was when the problem started. We had planned out date to be on a set as she had work on our usual Friday times. I understood and changed the day of the restaurant I booked to then. I hadn't told her as I wanted it to be a surprise instead of the usual home movie, but she knew to keep that day clear and to dress well for the date. Only an hour before the date, she texts me saying that she won't be there tonight as she was going to see a movie with a friend. I was honestly furious as I had already paid the pre-book fee and told her over a week in advance. I tried to call but her phone was off. I called her best friend and he had no idea what was happening either. The next morning I talked to her and she argues with me saying I should have told her it was a restaurant meal. After about an hour of argument, she finally admitted that she was wrong for what she did. I accepted that and we took a day break to calm down and clear any bad feelings. After that, the relationship started to decline. I stayed the same, but she started to get more and more distant. Then eventually, after 3 weeks of no intimacy, not even kisses, I confronted her asking what's going on. She says she needs a week to think and wanted to be single for that. I told her I don't mind taking a break if that's what she needs, but I don't see why being single is needed for that. She argued it's for her freedom, and I realized it was for another guy. We broke up and she spread lies about me cheating and harming her. Thankfully, the friends she spread it to wouldn't believe her, as we had all known each other for years, with her being introduced to them through me. Her best friend had tried to defend me and she had blocked him. But he knew her friend group, and through them we discovered that she had been cheating the last 3 weeks of the relationship as well as the friend she went to the movies with, being a Tinder hookup, then left me to start dating the new guy. To nobody's surprise, he blocked her after she tried to start dating him. Soon she dropped out of university as the guy had uploaded the videos of her cheating to adult sites, and it spread throughout her university. Then I decided I wanted revenge. It wasn't much as I knew her parents and were really close. They knew nothing that was going on and assumed we just broke up. Her parents, though, are super religious along with her grandmother. So although painful, I found the links to the videos, downloaded them, and took screenshots of all the breakup. Then I contacted her family saying I had something I wanted to share, created a group chat with her parents, grandmother, and ex-best friend. Then I unloaded all screenshots and videos, along with a text message explaining everything that's happened. There was no contact for about a week, then her ex-best friend filled me in on the situation. She had lost her scholarship due to dropping out of university. Her grandmother, after seeing the proof, cut her from the will and disowned her, followed by her parents, and her being evicted from the house as well as support cut off. She now is working a minimum wage job and sharing a home with friends. Edit. For all those calling me a bad person, I know. It's nuclear revenge, not AITA. And for those who can't read, she attempted to pin abuse, which would make me lose my job. And I did not upload the videos, only shared to her family for proof. After that it was out my hands and went further than I thought. I was waiting for this to go nuclear, and then the last 2 paragraphs came in. Bloody hell, that must have left a mark. Thing blew harder than Hiroshima. This feels like it should be on the shame page. The Tinder guy felt so strongly about her that he blocked her, created and uploaded revenge videos. You found it, and then you destroyed her life with it. Over a 3-month relationship to a long-term friend. Hell, it fell apart in 3 months so badly that she was cheating that obviously. Are you saying you've had no red flags from when y'all were friends? Because she spread rumors that he was harming her. This wasn't just for cheating. It was for the slander dished to him after that, which could have very likely ruined his social life. Why are people in the comments section acting like this is an AITA thread? The whole point of this sub is telling stories of overboard reactions law. Right. I actually found it very fitting of the sub. She cheated and tried to badmouth OP. I honestly think she kinda deserved a punch of reality and consequences of her actions. Is OP kind of a jerk? Yes, but that is exactly why you don't antagonize people who you don't know what they are capable of. Last story. My ex started hurting me again, so I ruined her college education. I, 21 male, met my ex-girlfriend Renee, 20 female, 4 years ago when we were 17 and 16 to be specific. We were off and on because of her behavior and mine as well. It was toxic and we weren't best suited. I was untrusting and cold some days. She was always drinking and going out with other people, and couldn't be bothered with me unless she had a bad day. She constantly went out drinking, sending explicit pics to other guys, hooking up, and then blaming it on assault so I wouldn't freak out. And I handled it poorly by being strict and creating rules, and being way too overprotective of her, which I can admit is my bad. But she always made me the source of her issues, and blamed me for her parents hating her, her sister being mean to her, not having a social life, even though I stopped her from self-harm when I met her, helped her finish high school, and helped her get a scholarship to my local university. We finally broke up when she moved here for college from a few states away almost 2 years ago. When she was 19, started dating a minor behind my back. I went on with my life and she went on with hers. I met somebody and we had a perfectly healthy relationship, and she brought out the best in me and made me become a better person. Until a month ago when I lost her to complications in her life and she had to leave. I grieved as I needed and continued trying to do better like she always wanted for me. Flash forward a week ago when Renee and I ran into each other and started talking again, told her how my life was going, she talked about hers. And we started being friends again. She knew I was grieving, and at first was incredibly sympathetic, and I figured we could have a good friendship. After a day she started comparing me to her new boyfriend, 21 male, and making fun of me for things I lacked, and would rub in my face how better he is at everything compared to me. The shoe dropped when she started rubbing in my face about hooking up with him, and how it must suck knowing I can't again with my ex. I'm fine with being insulted, but bringing her up knowing my pain pushed a line. I told her to knock it off and don't talk about it, and she proceeded to treat me like a client at her job. She helps mentally disabled people and knows I have a slight disability, and kept telling me that if I don't want to be talked to like that, then stop telling her what to do. She gets drunk one night and starts yelling at me about our relationship and all the issues she endured while being with me. I apologized and made my amends, because I can agree I wasn't always the best. Never expected her to apologize for hers, but made clear how sorry I was for my part, as I know I wasn't always correct, and she finally went to bed. Next night she calls me at 1 a.m. She gets incredibly drunk. Starts calling me names and saying I'm mean because she's bringing up being intimate with her boyfriend, and how she's doing it while texting to me, and I get sick of it and tell her to go away. She makes comments that she's gonna keep screwing him, to where I make a comment of, "That's nice, now if only he could satisfy," which brought her boyfriend into a rage and threatening to shoot me. And then Renee pipes up and says she should go find my ex and tell her how horrible I used to be and ruin everything, so if the day comes where she can come back, she will never want to see me again. Cue my nuclear revenge. They both were college students living in the dorm on scholarships. The college has a rule against alcohol, and you will lose your scholarship if caught with it. So I contacted the police, gave them her dorm number, explained she's underage drinking, her boyfriend is supplying the alcohol, and she's currently hooking up in the dorm with him. Police show up, dorm roommates let them in, knock on the door, catch her drunk with all sorts of alcohol from over state lines. My state has a lesser alcohol rating, so stuff from the next state over is double in alcohol percentage, and catch them both obviously doing it while she's drunk. She ends up charged with underage drinking. He's charged with giving alcohol to a minor, and is looking at added assault charges because he got her drunk and then screwed her while she's under the legal age. And both of their scholarships were lost and were expelled, and now both have to leave town, and they both live in entirely different states. She wants to make me feel lesser. Enjoy losing your education. Maybe it's young people, but why even start talking to a toxic person again? Maybe it's because after so many years, the person might have matured somewhat. I say might, as some people never change. I believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt, but treat me badly again and that's it. No more chances. After so many years. Sounds like it was a year. No toxic person matures enough in that amount of time, especially not at 19. I know when people are younger, half a year or a year feels like a lot of time has passed, and you're potentially reconnecting with a whole new person, but it's barely any time at all. It definitely qualifies for the sub, but I feel like nearly everyone in this story needs to mature a little. And in like 10 years, they're gonna look back and be embarrassed by all this. I agree, but this person is owning up to the fact that he had some mishaps he apologized for. Why didn't you just block her when she started comparing you to her boyfriend and mistreating you again? No one needs that crap, dude. She sounds incredibly toxic. Additionally, what if she finds out you reported her and got her in trouble? She sounds petty enough to want revenge. Nah, that witch deserved it.